Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday episode of Trade the Chain. It is April 27th. The full crew is in the house. We got the best hair in crypto joining us from somewhere other than his normal place. We have CJ and Monty, crypto analysts from marketrebellion.com. And today we're dubbing this episode All-Time High Day because we're going to hit a few things that hit all-time highs, Ethereum and DeFi lockups. So before we get started, Ryan, thank God you're back. Take away the legal.
Thanks, Alex. This is just a reminder that all content provided by Trade the Chain and Market Rebellion is strictly for educational and informational purposes only. Absolutely none of this is investment advice, and you should not listen to a single word we say. Trade the Chain is brought to you by TradeTheChain.com, a global community of traders across 23 time zones of all ages, all abilities, all skill levels, all backgrounds, and all using AI-driven sentiment indicators and actionable alerts to help them beat the market. If you too want to trade like a crypto insider and you're not yet a member, check out TradeTheChain.com.
And moving over to marketrebellion.com/crypto. This is Monty and myself and our community at Market Rebellion Crypto. And with us, you get exclusive trade ideas, entries, exits, and stop losses on a weekly basis, along with our access to our macro portfolio allocations, a pro charting platform, a trading education curriculum, and an elite community of traders all throughout the world, and much more. If you're serious about trading crypto, this is the service that gives you everything you need all in one place. And you can start your first month trial for just $1 for marketrebellion.com/crypto. We appreciate that, guys. And before we get into the markets here, any starting thoughts? First of all, it's great to have the full crew back together. I know I was out on Friday. It's great to have you back, Ryan, as well. But gentlemen,
I think, first of all, this is a fully vaccinated crew now, if I'm not mistaken. So congrats to everybody. I just want to say one thing, rumor mill. So last week I brought up OCamFi, the Cardano blockchain launchpad. Well, rumor has it, a good source rumor, that there is actually going to be an announcement on the first Cardano blockchain project launching on it very soon. I believe it's getting announced later today, tomorrow. So yeah, that's kind of awesome. And then also, while we're on the subject of Cardano, ADA, I mean, the whole Africa meetup thing, there's a lot of news happening with ADA. It's actually, Cardano's like in the news right now. They're doing big things. Finally, somebody stirred the water.
Building on it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Rumor, first Cardano project launching on OCamFi Launchpad. That's it. CJ, this is your part of the show.
Anyone else? No? Okay. All right. Well, then let's get into Bitcoin and the big boards. But first, let's head over to the Trade the Chain dashboard. Much more bearish on the hourly sentiment yesterday. Today, we're seeing much more of a neutral perspective across the board when it comes to the shorter term hourly sentiment. Let's see what we got long term. Pirate Chain keeps coming up. Please let us know if you are a R holder in the chat. I would love to know below.
Have you seen a score for long-term sentiment or any sentiment score as high as 146 before? I mean, that's the highest I've seen.
Wow. That really actually is the highest score I've ever seen for long-term sentiment.
Origin Protocol. You saw it here first, folks.
Okay.
To Bitcoin, like what we discussed yesterday, beautiful TD buy 9 signal, got the confirmation with the bullish engulfing candle following it. We covered that a lot today. I will touch on it a little, but I want to put a greater emphasis on on-chain volume and some of the research coming out of Glassnode, because we did just get their newsletter and an update on some of those graphs that I will go into in just a moment here. But you can see each one of these previous bullish engulfing candles characterized in the previous uptrend. It's not as if we went, straight up following that. There was many instances where we traded in a range and had bullish to neutral price action before, accelerating up that next leg up. Same thing happened the second time around. We had a bullish to neutral consolidation, didn't do a whole lot after the first initial bullish engulfing candle. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something relatively similar, especially when we have a lot of resistance and, somewhat support at 55K. So I do expect us to kind of be a little bit range bound here before potentially testing some of those higher levels and going into new all-time highs. Our oscillators look beautiful on the bottom channel as well, both moving up with bullish crosses on that. Speaking more to the on-chain metrics, let's take a look at the SOPR. So Nick Mancini, one of the part of Trade the Chain gang, he posted this image earlier on Twitter today, and I think it's a great example coming out of Glassnode of the shorter term holders that have been pinched, or I guess you could say squeezed out of the market. Each time we've hit these ultra low levels in which we go below the zero line, we've resulted in significant price increases and we've resumed the bull market and the bull trend each time we've gone all the way down into these troughs. So a very bullish signal from Glassnode that we're seeing, and definitely retweeted by Nick. So definitely check him out. Also, we have perpetual futures and their funding rates getting to a great reset period. In my mind, this also symbolizes a lot of the shorter term traders, shorter term traders who are coming in towards the peak of an uptrend. Maybe they're coming in for a potential scalp trade on those futures. And so the fact that we have a decline in a funding rate is another instance of that reset period, kind of going all the way back to zero, getting the short-term speculators out of the market so we can prime ourselves for a more authentic and true rally. Last thing I want to highlight is part of Glassnode's newsletter. They're also emphasizing some more coins that were spent that were a little bit more younger. So if we understand this graph in a little bit more in depth, we established that there's a typical age bracket for some of these coins that are spent. And notably, coins older than 6 months have not seen a meaningful increase since the last correction back in February. So you can see where this is highlighted. Each time we've gotten a repression in kind of this purple area, it's been followed by a nice rally, very close and very similar to the premise of these two previous charts, focusing on shorter term holders. So the fact that we're getting another decline and retrace in those shorter term coins, they're not spending them as much. And so ultimately, it's a nice picture fundamentally from Glassnode, and we're seeing a lot of those bullish macro fundamental indicators across the board. So pretty promising, and I'm expecting some bullish price action for the rest of the week from Bitcoin.
Well, as CJ would say, that's a lot to unpack. That's it, but it's a lot of really interesting information and a lot of important market news, definitely, for sure. Monty, what can you tell us about Ethereum? What's going on over there?
Wait, before we go to Ethereum, Alex, one thing I wanted to point out that correlates to what CJ was saying. The highest open interest among options right now listed on Deribit with an end of the month expiry is the 80,000 call option, and that's more than 5,000 contracts. So that definitely points to an uptrend, at least as far as what institutional and smart money is thinking. So just wanted to add that.
To that point, even with people, let's say, modifying their $400,000 guidance for Bitcoin at the end of the year, but let's go back to rationale 125, 150, somewhere in that neighborhood. Look at where we are right now with Bitcoin, and look at how much farther we got to go to get to those numbers. So we're either going to be in a really velocity-driven market the rest of the year, or a lot of smart people are way off.
Well, let's look at the log chart, right? Because this was one of Pantera Capital's predictions of about 190,000 by the end of August. And based on this parabolic rise, if we go into a similar trajectory, it doesn't seem too far off.
No.
Still, I cut off Monty. I'm sorry. Please go ahead, sir.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, you did a good job of painting the macro picture. And before we move on to ETH, I just want to, I want to take a step in real quick and tell people how I'm planning to trade this market. I'm sure a lot of people that watch this bought the dip. We got a lot of very active and intelligent traders that watch this show. But if you didn't buy this dip, I think there's still a great opportunity to make a play on Bitcoin profitably, because I 100% agree with what CJ was saying that, in the past, when we've gotten this bullish engulfing candles, we haven't necessarily taken off right away. And I think there's a really simple way to play this. And that's what I plan to do. So I just want to quickly share that. And that is using this 20-period simple moving average as an indication of when to enter or exit the market. So I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before on the show, but I think right now is a very valid time to apply this strategy. So, like CJ mentioned, we've traded a bit sideways following this bullish engulfing candle historically. And, we've kind of stayed below that simple moving average. So what I'm doing this week is I'm just going to wait for a close above this moving average. Whenever we do get that, you can see it here when we get that close above the moving average with one of these candles. That's when we tend to get those strong moves to the upside. It can be a bit deceiving. Like you can see here, we got this wick up, a close below. We still had 3 more days of a bit neutral to bearish price action. So I'm just waiting for a candle to close above this moving average, and I'm going to go ahead and increase my position once again. So, this is an interesting market. I agree that we're kind of due for a bit of sideways price action, but once the moves happen, they happen quick. So just watching this moving average is a great way to catch a move to the upside.
So CJ, back to what you said about Pantera's prediction for Bitcoin heading into August. They said 115,000, give or take, during that month. Do you really think that's going to happen? I mean, that just seems a bit much based on the way it's been trading sideways and some of the shocks that have driven Bitcoin down. I feel like it has more of a likelihood of heading down to 50K than it does to 115K.
Well, you say 115 now, Ryan. Hang on. You look at the time lapse between when we started having a hockey stick on Bitcoin at the beginning of this year, and then count, how many months until the end of August. There's still time.
Right, but the markets are just dead in the summer. No one's around. They trade sideways. They don't move parabolically higher unless it's a DeFi project that no one heard of.
How can the markets be dead during a bull run? They're dead during a winter. I think everybody's excited. Nobody's going to the beach this summer.
I think a lot of people are going to the beach after not going last year. I don't see 115K happening. I don't.
Okay, let's give them credit though, because this article is from March of 2021. Okay, so that was before we had a massive run. But yeah, 115K by August. I'll give them to the end of August here, August 30th. That does not look unfathomable or out of the realm of possibility by any means. What we've seen recently is a neutral to bullish consolidation. We haven't given up that 50 or that 48K level of critical Fibonacci support. The fact that we've bounced off it is very promising, and we'll see. I think if we get past into the 72K region, some very, very interesting things could happen. But it almost looks like a possible bull flag. I mean, that is a very optimistic thing, but based on how fast and how rapid this market has progressed thus far, it might not be as crazy as we think.
Okay.
Now let's talk about ETH, Alex, because ETH is.
But before we get to ETH, no, I'm just joking. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good. ETH. I mean, it's crypto. If we're not talking about an all-time high, our audience is getting bored, guys. So let's look at ETH, because there's a couple of exciting things about ETH that are happening today. So, hitting a new all-time high of 2682, very encouraging move to ETH. Like we've been pointing out, it's always worth noting when the ETH chart looks, different from the Bitcoin chart. And we're getting some strong divergence right now. It didn't really show the same weakness that Bitcoin did during that sell-off, And, I think it's encouraging that it's up above this moving average and, continuing to climb. One thing that's definitely worth noting is the gas fees for ETH. We talk about them a lot and how they've kind of crippled, the development of smaller projects on the ERC20 blockchain, and also the willingness of retail traders to participate in those projects. But today it actually hit an all-time, or not an all-time, but a low for the year, a 3-month low, which is very encouraging. And it's not just encouraging for ETH. This is encouraging for, all the altcoins that maybe aren't even listed on major exchanges yet. And if you take a look at Trade the Chain, I've highlighted some, DeFi assets. And as you can see, they're all performing very well in the last 24 hours. Their relative trading volume is all up, their tweet volume's up, and the DeFi sector in general is performing very well right now. We are bouncing back with this value locked in DeFi. So there's good reason to believe that, people are bullish on ETH right now, and that the projects that are being created on the ERC20 blockchain are going to increase in speculation because of this all-time high for ETH and because of the annual low in gas fees. It's kind of the perfect storm to allow for, a big influx of retail speculation into a lot of these DeFi assets. So great to see from ETH making a new all-time high. A lot of very happy ETH holders out there. And the thing about it is, I always harp on this relationship between all of the projects within the crypto ecosystem. It's particularly prevalent between, ETH and these DeFi assets. When you see this tremendous spike in the value locked in DeFi, it's just so bullish for the long-term value proposition of ETH, because you can anticipate that towards the end of this market cycle, you'll see a lot of the value locked up in these assets here that comprise this DeFi value index start to trickle back upstream into ETH. So overall, very encouraging things from ETH. Low gas fees, all-time high in price. You love to see it.
Look at that
So
volume. That volume looks amazing. Monty, sorry, Ryan, I want to ask you.
No, you're fine.
This is an ETH Maxi question, so you might like it as well, Ryan. But Monty, you mentioned the fact that Bitcoin sold off to 47,000 and Ethereum remained rather resilient. Why do we think that is? Is that because of the DeFi market? And what's the differentiation between Ethereum and Bitcoin in that regard?
Yeah, that's a great question, CJ. I think a lot of the reason why we saw such a substantial drop in Bitcoin was because of those just irresponsibly long positions. We didn't see that in Ethereum, so there were less levered longs in the market. There was less incentive for the whales to drive price down. And I think when you have that, it just, you were talking earlier about the importance of authentic organic growth. And, I think because of ETH's more authentic growth, it's just increasing its value locked in DeFi. And it has much less to do with pure speculation, as the case with Bitcoin seems to be right now. I think it just makes it less volatile to the downside during cases of, extreme amount of levered longs in the market.
You don't think that Bitcoin going down was a product of Tesla selling off, what was it, 286 million worth from its treasury? I can't remember the exact number, but they sold off a significant number of Bitcoin rather, sorry, to I guess 272 million.
Well,
So,
but only 20% of their holdings.
Right,
10%.
but they sold off 272
10%.
million. That's market moving for an asset like Bitcoin, is it not? Selling 272 million. And when you're looking at the total value lock, this is something I've pointed out before, that spike in TVL looks almost exactly the same as the spike in Bitcoin price. So there has to be some amount of the appreciation in the value of ETH also driving the appreciation in the value of total total value lock. No, I mean, I don't necessarily think that much more money has been put into these projects. Yes, more money has been put into them, but I don't think it's been substantially higher to drive it to an all-time high when you have ETH hitting an all-time high at literally the same exact time. There has to be some correlation there, no?
I'm not sure that I fully understand the question. Yeah, I mean, I think you're saying that there's correlation beyond the fact that, these projects are created on the ERC20 blockchain and therefore, are subject to similar speculation. I mean, yeah, I think it works both ways, right? The value of ETH bolsters the legitimacy of these projects, and then on the other way around, like the legitimacy that these projects bring bolsters the value of ETH. So I think there's always going to be that relationship, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing.
No, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I've been proudly trumpeting the fact that I'm an ETH maxer, and the higher ETH goes in value, the happier I am, of course. I just feel like until there's a divergence between the value of ETH and the total value locked, and we can track some kind of difference there, I feel like those two are kind of linked until they're not,
Okay. All right. It's Ryan's first day back and he's already starting schoolyard fights. No, I'm just joking. Okay.
Well, the difference between these and the fights when I was in high school is I can almost win these fights.
Yeah, one of the things I want to look at real quick, CJ, would you mind bringing up the Stormx chart, Stmx?
The perfect storm.
Well, I mean, listen, it's had a little bit of a movement. I think it's worth discussing. A lot of viewers holding on to Stormx positions.
Monty, do you want to talk about Stormx? Because it was your pick yesterday. I guess the one thing I'll say is I wanted to get above this SMA, which would be about 5 cents and 0.8 of a cent. And this is a critical range it'll be in. I'm looking for confirmation of a larger move. But I think a lot of the assets in the market right now are bottoming towards this 9. Like we saw, we got it here last week and have now created this kind of rounding bottom. But Monty, you had a lot to say about Stormx, so I'm curious to hear your opinion as well.
Yeah, CJ, we're seeing a pattern emerge with a lot of the altcoins in the market right now, and Stormx is a good example of that pattern. And the reason why I picked it yesterday as my pick of the day is just because of the technicals, right? And like you mentioned, CJ, we have this reoccurring theme throughout the altcoin market of the assets kind of bottoming on this TD sequential 9. And a lot of them did reverse immediately after. We saw that bullish engulfing candle with a lot of assets. But this one, it was a great example of why I like to wait for confirmation in the form of a bullish engulfing candle before entering a long trade. So, a lot of the market had seen this candle right here a few days prior. As you can see, we actually didn't bottom on this TD sequential 9. We whiffed all the way down into the 3-cent range, which was pretty scary. But I was still at that point just waiting for that reversal, waiting for that confirmation. It looked here. We weren't able to close up enough to make it a fully bullish engulfing candle, but we finally did get it here, and we were met today with some more bullish price action. But I still very much like the momentum that Stormx is seeing. I like the fact that it now has this support at the form of 4.2 cents. But I don't think it's going to retest that level anytime soon. Like CJ mentioned, the next critical level is this simple moving average, this 20-period moving average. I think once it does break above this level, it's pretty much clear skies to the 8-cent level. So there's still really strong upside, in my opinion, to make this trade. Full disclosure, I do hold it. And full disclosure, I did add more to my position yesterday or the day before, I forget now. But, because of just the way that this chart is laid out right now, as you can see, I think there's really strong upside potential with Stormx. And this is just from a technical perspective, right? I could talk for another 15 minutes about the fundamental value of Stormx, but right now I'm making this as a purely technical play. So I like where this is headed, and I think it's set to have a strong second half of the week.
Yeah, I think, first of all, full disclosure, I think we all hold Stormx, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah. But full disclosure, I own it. I added onto it. I just upped my position when Monty did. the other day. I like it. People ask, I'm not wavering from my 25 cents. I don't care how much you try to go against me on that. Looking for 25 cents. End of May, beginning of June. Looking for $1 end of year. So we'll see. I think it has legs to run. I really do.
Spicy at that.
If you're saying dollar end of year, you have to add hashtag Stormtrooper to your Twitter bio. Otherwise,
Okay.
it doesn't count.
Okay, I'll do that. By the end of today, there will be a hashtag Stormtrooper on my bio on Twitter. Oh my God. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us today. Looking forward to the end of going through this week, going into next week. I'm really excited that a lot of people's portfolio is up, particularly some of those assets that we cover that we've seen go down. Look to be on the rebound now, and that's always healthy for everybody from a mental perspective in trading. We will be back tomorrow, so hang on to your handlebars and catch us tomorrow. It'll be more fun than it was today, I guarantee you, because CJ is going to tell some jokes. All right, he doesn't know it yet. All right, folks, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone.